Test 1, 2, 3 test. Test. Hello. So the market had opened. We don't have a lower low overnight. We do have a. What I meant is during the day. We don't have yet a new low in regular trading hours. The market is holding so far. Let me send the stream to Discord. Let me copy the stream from X. So here we go like this. Estoy compartiendo esto en los streams. Y dada la hora que es, vamos a ver Market Internals. El mercado abierto, Market Internals positivos. Vamos a tomar una foto de esto. Y la compartimos en X. Y esto lo voy aquí. Y voy a ver aquí. Ahí tenemos algunos índices ya volviéndose negativos. En la apertura, utilities, consumer staples and infotech. NASDAQ and S&P holding the opening print. That's positive overall. And let's do the daily routine. So we open every single chart here. And what we wait is for the first 50 minutes candle to form. Let me check the other indexes, YM and Russell. Russell continued to the high of yesterday, stronger. YM is not near the high of yesterday, so this is relevant. A strength on the Russell, which is 1% up. You can see this here. Even with this here, you can see it here, 1%, and here's the YM, which differ from the ES and the Russell and then NASDAQ. NASDAQ is about flat. The ES is Market internals still strong. See money coming in. Yesterday you see like we opened negative and they continue negative. But the real push was at 12:15 New York time. I go change here to gold, trading higher, silver about flat, crude around 60. The euro dollar is 117 and a half. Let me check what we have here. Thank you. Going down a little bit. So let's do the daily routine. Today, 21st, we have delay construction spending, delay data, and then pending home sales at 10. So in about half an hour. Equity indexes from around the world. Let's go with white. And we can see that most of the highs were here. And from this point, let me do this squares, simpler. It was in this area. And from this point on, they're trading low, where 2 days, right? But nothing really selling yet. Some of my systems are looking for signals. And now this is important because we can have year to date is negative, the big gap and continuation from yesterday. What we can expect is kind of like a bounce and then going down. If the bears continue, I'll take it step by step, right? Let's see what those signals were. Big push and a high and a purchase there on ES as well. Both of them are trading above the volume weighted, the VWAP, right? Moving zigzag. Here we have interesting sells. 200 contracts, 180 contracts were executed. Overall, yes, we're starting to look. You see, we can do a trend line here. Hey, this is not healthy. The first month in a while that is looking negative. Let's see how we close today. A lot of the news from Davos, right? It's changing the market sentiment. So we need to be into that equation. We had a -2 yesterday. We have two options, right? Okay, we have three, but we could have another day down or in a range, like up and down, right? Or we could have a very positive day today. So far, we had open flat. So you see this push down and then a positive day high, the same here, the same here, push down and then a positive day. Mm, we have to be open for volatility. Interesting. I wanted to see this. Still new highs in the New York Stock Exchange, and the NASDAQ started with more new lows and highs. So this is losing a little bit more steam than the ES. Mm. So let's see if these two translate into more follow through to the downside like we had here, or just a reverse like we had here. I don't like the divergence. It's easier to trade with when both are in the same side. But that's what we have. Volatility spiked to 22. Let me check now. Uh, where's the VIX here? So 20 yesterday in the futures, now trading lower. Yeah, definitely overnight was the push in volatility yesterday as well. Now we're trading back to yesterday's level. Mid-range yesterday. In a daily candles, yes, we saw the pop, but so far we don't see a continuation. This will be inverse to the S&P 500 at this stage, right? This is interesting year to date. Let me take a picture of this and share it. Both in intraday data. Here's it. What is holding? Of course, gold, crude, very strong. Energy. S&P 500 energy did not drop. S&P materials did not drop. Consumer staple did not drop. Emerging markets fine. Industrial fine. Russell 2000 fine. What is technology? So you see the S&P 500 technology, the Russell 1,000 gold, a growth. Financials, consumer services down year to date. So a mixed bag. We are in the beginning of the year. This is important to take into account. The S&P 500 is still going. Let me see what is the SPX. The S&P 500 is about flat 0.7, while the technology is not, right? We have the ES now trading higher. We have the NQ looking a little better. Year to date, Korea, Mexico, Brazil, Greece, China, and Japan. On the negative side, India is near -5, Argentina is negative, Ireland is negative, France is negative, US, Switzerland, and Italy. Italy had a great run last year. So in the last 2 days, we finally see some volatility here. This is worth an analysis. Oil is strong. I'm looking for oil to depreciate, right? So oil is strong. If we mark this, it's above this trend line. This was broken. That's not going to work, right? The same thing with this. Dollar index getting weaker. S&P REITs down. Apple down. Apple is having in the last 30 days minus 10%. So that's relevant. Russell minus 4. Plus 4.5 in the last 30 days. Here, the MSCI World. Yesterday was a drop all over the place. Yeah? Bitcoin down, but in the last 30 days is about flat. Gold and silver continue the strength. I mean, just the charts are unbelievable. I mean, if we put gold new high again today, we're approaching 5,000. Silver, we're approaching 100. Still not a new high today, but it's an retracement. So let's focus on the ES and NQ. Wow, this is pushing. And we do have to hold here. ES above VWAP, only providing continuation signals. NQ and that's all. I mean, I don't have that much more to share. I'm going to take a break for a few minutes and I come back.
chose the one that led to you. Bring the unexplored, the reckless and the new, 'cause nothing scares me anymore. How the sun lights up the moon, wax or wane, I know I'll see you soon. Ooh, I do. Life may bring us harder puzzles to resolve. Spinning, twisting, we'll be shining through it all. A warmer summer brings us brighter leaves and fall. My future's never looked so bright. How the sun lights up the moon, wax or wane, I know I'll see you soon. Ooh, I do. Ooh, tonight I fly away with you and leave the land behind me. Our eyes illuminated by the silver lining.
So here we are, NASDAQ at the high of the day. Yes, at the high of the day, half an hour have passed. And this is not looking good for bears, right? Let me check the news. So the market is, this is the news here, right? European Parliament suspend work on US trade deal after Trump repeated Greenland comments.
Have I become a little too shy for love? I've been hurt before. All's fair in love and war. So I snuggle up close to the shell I'm living in. And if I let you in, another round begins. No, I'm spinning in a vicious cycle. I'm scared of doing something I'll regret. Maybe this is right, but I'm still staring at your silhouette. What if you're everything I need? A fire in my heart, the air I breathe. What if I'm incomplete without you by my side? What if I go against my heart instead of confessing from the start? What if I miss out on the
So you can see how these stocks are not near the high of yesterday, right? But the indexes are.
Should I be scared? The feeling's so different.
Right? This is the yes.
You got me
This is the NQ.
floating, a feather in the air. Oh, but when the wind blows, will I tumble or sail away? Or would you have me stay? And what if I escape? I know I'm spinning in a vicious cycle. I'm scared of doing something I'll regret. Maybe this is right, but I'm still staring at your silhouette. What if you're everything I need? A fire in my heart, the air I breathe. What if I'm incomplete without you by my side? What if I go against my heart instead of confessing from the start? What if I miss out on the life meant for us? I need you by my side, by your side. Not afraid. We found something that'll never fade. We can be ourselves and figure out the rest along the way. What if you're everything I need? A fire in my heart, the air I breathe. What if I'm incomplete without you by my side? What if I go against my heart instead of confessing from the start? What if I
So market intelligence are strong. Ticks are giving up a little bit, near zero. These key stocks are now mixed.
Seven tries every night to gamble. Even when I turn off all the lights, all I see are puzzles. Yeah, I'd rather be dreaming, floating while sleeping, to islands in the sky. I need you to fly me away. Seven different ways of fighting up the storm we've been sleeping on. Yeah, digging up the ground, trying to find what's wrong. Plant a seed, burn it down, make it freeze. Drown it, then we shock it till we bring it to its knees. Heaven blowing on my dice, for a price. Feel the breeze, hear it roar like a night. Running, climbing, swimming, gliding, maybe I'm alright. I'd rather be dreaming, floating while sleeping, to islands in the sky. I need you to fly me away tonight.
Order filled.
What you think about when you're born into a fire? Let 'em burn it out. Sell 'em to the richest buyer. They wanna let the world decay. They tell us lies and fade away, fade away. We feel betrayed. We were raised to lose the race. Wake at the back of the pack, kill it anyway. Listen up now, because we're never dropping out. Beat the odds, beat the big house. The brains are bigger than the doubt. We've been thinking for ourselves, never let the truth fade away. This is bigger than ourselves, we won't let the world burn away, burn away. We feel betrayed. We Thank the stars I chose the one that led to you. Bring the unexplored, the reckless and the new, 'cause nothing scares me anymore. How the sun lights up the moon, wax or wane, I know I'll see you soon. Ooh, I
Have I become a little too shy for love? I've been hurt before. All's fair in love and war. So I snuggle up close to the shell I'm living in. And if I let you in, another round begins. No, I'm spinning in a vicious cycle. I'm scared of doing something I'll regret. Maybe this is right, but I'm still staring at your silhouette. What if you're everything I need? A fire in my heart, the air I breathe. What if I'm incomplete without you by my side? What if I go against my heart instead of confessing from the start? What if I miss out on the life meant for us? I need you by my side.
Should I be scared? The feeling's so different now. You got me floating here, a feather in the air. Oh, but when the wind blows, will I tumble or sail away? Or would you have me stay? And what if I escape? I know
I'm spinning in a vicious cycle. I'm scared of doing something I'll regret. Maybe this is right, but I'm still staring at your silhouette. What if you're everything I need? A fire in my heart, the air I breathe. What if I'm incomplete without you by my side? What if I go against my heart instead of confessing from the start? What if I miss out on the life meant for us? I need you by my side, by your side. I'm not afraid. We found something that'll never fade. We can be ourselves and figure out the rest along the way. What if you're everything I need? A fire in my heart, the air I breathe. What if I'm incomplete without you by my side? What if I go against my heart instead of confessing from the start? What if I miss out on the life meant for us? I need you by my side. I need you by my
one rainy day I found a box full of letters and photos. Came across a pretty face I used to know. Said hello to the
This may be
Grabby picture so I would never have to remember what I had was good. I've been looking for more than just this. Past the mirror, beyond the abyss. Tell me fairy tales still exist. I want to be.
That's it.
Seven tries, every night to gamble. Even when I turn off all the lights, all I see are puzzles, yeah. I'd rather be dreaming, floating while sleeping, to islands in the sky. I need you to fly me away. 7 different ways of fighting up the storm we've been sleeping on. Yeah, digging up the ground, trying to find what's wrong. Plant a seed, burn it down, make it freeze. Drown it, then we shock it till we bring it to its knees. Heaven blowing on my dice, for a price. Feel the breeze, hear it roar like a night. Running, climbing, swimming, gliding, maybe I'm alright. I'd rather be dreaming, floating while sleeping, to islands in the sky. I need you to fly me away tonight.
Order filled. Order filled.
$20 puntos. Es que necesito todo esto.
We probably won't get anything unless I decide to use excessive strength and force.
where we would be, frankly, unstoppable. But I won't do that. Okay? Now everyone's saying, oh, good. That's probably the biggest statement I made because people thought I would use force. I don't have to use force. I don't want to use force. I won't use force.
The European Union's trade deal with South America faces a hitch. EU lawmakers voted Wednesday to challenge the agreement in the bloc's top court. The move could delay the deal by 2 years and even derail it. The EU signed its largest ever trade pact with Mercosur members Argentina, Brazil, Paraguay, and Uruguay on Saturday, although it still needs approval before it can take effect. France is the EU's largest agricultural producer and leads opponents to the deal. They argue it will raise imports of cheap beef, sugar, and poultry. They fear this would undercut domestic farmers who staged protests. A group of lawmakers put forward a parliamentary motion Wednesday. It aims to ask the EU Court of Justice to rule on whether the agreement can be applied before full ratification by all member states. And it wants to see whether its provisions restrict the EU's ability to see environmental and consumer health policies. The court often takes around 2 years to deliver such opinions. The EU could still apply the pact provisionally, pending the ruling and parliamentary approval if referred to the court. But it could be politically difficult given the likely backlash. Supporters, including Germany and Spain, point to US President Donald Trump's disruption of global trade. They argue the deal is needed to offset business lost to US tariffs and to lower reliance on China by securing access to critical minerals.
This is a consequential Davos, I think we can all agree. And I was going to start by actually citing the chief exec of Dow Jones, who I was at a dinner with last night, who said, I can't work out whether I'm attending the last Davos of the old world order or the first Davos of the new world order. So I wanted to ask you which one you think it is.
Well, it's a great phrasing, isn't it? But these things never tend to be a sort of moment in time. They're a gradual reckoning of various things happening in the world. And I spent 38 years in intelligence and diplomacy, and I've never seen the world as contested and with as few guardrails as it has at the moment. You have the rise of China and everyone coming to terms with the huge growth in economic, political and military power of China. You have the most blatant challenge to the international order through Putin's aggression against Ukraine, still unresolved, still an issue which I think should be at the top of the international agenda. You've got the rise of many other powers. India, before we came on stage, talking about Turkey, a lot of powers which are making their own imprint on the world stage. And you have an unconventional US president who thinks that the former sort of traditional methods of statecraft haven't really delivered the goods and is determined to do it differently.
So this time a year ago, all of this sort of these new things that we're having to get used to would have been on your desk, but because you were still in post a year ago, how relieved are you that you got out in time?
Well, it's very nice to be sitting in Davos observing what others are doing. I'm not relieved. It was time for me to move on, and I was lucky enough to hand on to a superlative successor in Blaise Montreveli. But again, there's no particular moment, isn't it? That it certainly has been a pretty extraordinary start to the year.
It has. Now, there's a lot to get through, but before we sort of get into the sort of meat around the stuff, Greenland and all the rest of it, I just wanted to ask you specifically about the decision by the British government to give the go-ahead to the mega Chinese embassy. There are people who are saying that this is a big threat to British security. There are even American lawmakers saying this is a threat to US intelligence. Do you think it was the right decision to give it the go-ahead?
Well, I'm slightly bemused by this. Countries have to have embassies. That we have one in Beijing. They're going to have one in London. There is a lot of talk about the size of it. I'm sure that can be debated. But one of the points which people seem to lose in this is that the Chinese had 7 sites before, and they're being consolidated onto one place. And I can tell you that my colleague Ken McCallum, and he said this publicly, is much happier having that in one place. And of course, embassies, activity comes out of embassies, which I'm sure my colleagues at MI5 will monitor. But I don't think this is probably the foremost issue we should worry about when we think through the challenge that China presents.
Okay, so on Greenland, which is obviously the big talk of the week, and certainly of today, I just wonder, do you have any sympathy with President Trump's position on Greenland?
Well, let's step back from this, perhaps in more than one sense, and look at the issue. And there is a genuine issue of strategic competition opening up in the high north because of climate change. The polar caps are melting, and there are sea lanes opening up, which of course Russia as an Arctic power, China as a new category that it has invented, a near Arctic power, are keen to exploit those. And that poses a threat to the West, to the alliance. And it's important that we address that issue. It's a real issue. But I think it's addressable. There was until very recently, a very obscure 1951 agreement between the United States and Denmark. And under the terms of that agreement, forged at the beginning of the Cold War, and without limit, there is no end date to this, the US is able to deploy into Greenland all of the troops and equipment to be able to do space defense and all the other things that people are talking about. That is possible now. So I very much hope that we can be respectful of the national security needs of the United States as part of the broader alliance. We can all work together and we can find a way where we satisfy the administration's perfectly genuine needs to satisfy its national security.
But so, regardless of what the outcome today is, or in the next few weeks on Greenland, I think it's fair to say that there has been a rupture of trust between Europeans and the US. What does that mean for intelligence sharing?
Intelligence sharing tends to be, I'm glad to say, pretty insulated from the ups and downs and occasional spats within the alliance, because that sharing of intelligence is done in the national interest of both parties who are sharing it. We don't do it. It's not an act of charity for the United States to share with the United Kingdom. It's not an act of charity for us to do likewise. It works for both of us. It's part of an incredibly close partnership. So, I'm not there ever, but I very much doubt it's having any impact on that.
Really? So you think sort of normal channels of communication are all up and running?
We'll see. We'll have to see how things develop. But I do repeat, nothing has happened yet.
And then still on Greenland, is there any evidence of? I mean, you mentioned that the sort of geographical landscape is changing as well as the geopolitical one. Is there any evidence of a more imminent threat from China or Russia in the Arctic, or is it as it ever was?
I think it's a slow boil. I think it's as the ice melts, therefore the opportunity to push further into the high north presents itself. But look, there's a very straightforward example of Russia backed by China challenging the West, and it's in Ukraine. This is the most blatant challenge to the international order post the Second World War. It's ongoing. We still need to ensure that Putin does not succeed in that, and he is backed to the hilt by China. This is something that sometimes I feel people sort of think China's over there. Without China, Russia would have lost. It's as simple as that. The headlines are grabbed by the North Koreans, donating troops in Kursk, or those Iranian drones that came in at the beginning of the conflict, quite early on the conflict. But the thing that keeps Putin in Ukraine is Chinese support. Chinese support in terms of supplying the chemicals that go into his artillery shells, Chinese components that go into his drones and his missiles. And so if you want to push back against Russia and China, I would say the most urgent issue is Ukraine. And the issues of the high north are real and they need to be addressed, but the urgency for me is in Ukraine.
So it's sticking with Ukraine then. How would you see, given the reality of where we are in Ukraine, what would be a good outcome for you? I mean, would it be that they very soon agree on some sort of peace plan that involves various clauses around security? I don't know. I mean, what for you would be a realistic and good outcome?
Well, obviously, everyone wants to stop the slaughter in Ukraine. So, and I see in the Ukrainians, in particular in President Zelensky, someone who's prepared to make extraordinary sacrifices for peace. He's prepared to give up de facto 20% of his country. That's an extraordinary act, but he's prepared to do it to stop the fighting. And of course, the Ukrainians are under pressure. They have to be in these circumstances. So I would like to see that outcome with proper guarantees that Putin doesn't just come back. And remember, this started in 2014, not February 2022. And he stopped for a while, and then he came back. So if you're a Ukrainian, you have to have the sort of guarantees that people are talking about in order to stop it. And the final comment, Emma, is this is all lovely, but it requires Putin to desire to stop. And this is the problem. There was never a sign when I was in the job, and I am not aware of anything since, to suggest that Vladimir Vladimirovich Putin wants to stop grinding forward in Ukraine until the pain level goes up for Putin, and until we lean in harder with the Ukrainians to help them to stop defenseless civilians being bombed out of their apartments and houses, him destroying their energy supply in the midst of winter. These are war crimes, and somehow we've all become a bit normalized to it. But every time you see that on your television, that is a war crime happening in front of us. So we should be supporting the Ukrainians, and we should be hammering Putin at home. There is still more we can do to make it better. And when we get his pain threshold up, and he begins to feel that his grip on power might be threatened if he carries on in Ukraine, he'll come and do a deal with you.
Okay, so how do we get that pain threshold up? And is there a role for intelligence there? I mean, we saw how smart the Ukrainians were with that operation that they did with the drones that were hidden in the trucks. That was a very smart operation. Are there more things we could be doing to get that pain threshold up?
Yeah, sure. But a lot of this is fairly obvious to us. It's, give them more air defense so that they can do a better job of protecting their people. Allow them to use long-range missiles to cause pain to the Russians back in the deep. At the moment, the Ukrainians fight on their soil against the Russians. The Russians fight from all over a very large country, Russia, with impunity in many cases. So that yes, there's lots more that can be done, of course. And the Ukraine, this place, Davos, I mean, I've been here a couple of days, is full of conversations about the extraordinary innovation and ingenuity of the Ukrainians. Everyone in the defense groups that I'm going at is all talking about how on earth do we replicate what the Ukrainians are doing. So we have a system to play into. Their defense industry is still undercapitalized. Just pure cash enables the Ukrainians to build more drones.
So I think it's one of the interesting things that has come out of Ukraine, as you say, is this incredible ingenuity. And we did have that great example of how they hit the drones and trucks, which led to some
brilliant operation.
Global shares fell for a fourth day on Wednesday. Market stress was still high after a rout in global bonds a day before, while US threats to acquire Greenland made investors nervous ahead of Trump's Davos speech. Fears of US assets gripped markets as Wall Street fell more than 2% overnight. The US dollar also saw its biggest fall in over a month. That drove investors towards safe haven gold, which continued its record run and rose above $4,800 an ounce. MSCI's all-world index headed for a fourth daily drop, while Europe's stock 600 also fell. Trump has said there was no going back on his goal to control Greenland and didn't rule out taking it by force. His threats of tariffs on Europe have also led to fears of a global trade war. The European Union is due to hold an emergency summit in Brussels on Thursday to discuss the matter. All eyes are now on the World Economic Forum in Davos. Trump is due to deliver a speech later Wednesday which could either calm or further tensions with Europe. The global bond market also reeled from a brutal sell-off. It's been caught up in worries over exposure to US assets and a surge in Japanese government borrowing costs. Japanese sovereign bonds saw their most aggressive sell-off in nearly 25 years on Tuesday. Investors feared higher increased government spending under Japanese Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi, and US 30-year Treasury yields neared the 5% threshold for the first time since September.
Burberry beat sales forecasts in the key holiday quarter. Its marketing push featuring British celebrities paid off, attracting Gen Z shoppers in China.
I'm here with Patrice Luke.
Elon Musk apparently took great umbrage and resorted to insulting me on X the weekend, calling me an idiot. I think yesterday he also rounded on me and called me a twat. All I would say to Elon Musk is he would have to join the back of a very, 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 very long queue of people who already think I'm a twat, including my 4 teenage children. We have been in discussion with Starlink, his satellite system, for about over 12 months now. It is a very good system. The Starlink people believe that 90% of our passengers would happily pay for Wi-Fi access. Our experience sadly tells us we think less than 10% of our passengers pay for this access, and therefore we can't afford to shoulder costs of between 150 or 250 million a year. We noticed he was holding a poll about should he launch a bid for Ryanair. We're a publicly owned company. He's free to do so at any time, but non-European citizens cannot own a majority of European airlines.
Forum with truly phenomenal news from America. Yesterday marked the 1-year anniversary of my inauguration, and today, after 12 months back in the White House, our economy is booming, growth is exploding.
Now the JP Morgan CEO is going to talk. Davos. Not allowing the market to drop. 47.
Order filled. Order filled. Order filled.
Fucking press lower, man.
Order filled. Order partially filled. Order filled.
No, no se va a dar ahí la vuelta a 77, chicos. Quiero 77.
Order cancelled.
Ahí está.
Order filled.
Por el culo. extraordinary the speed that went down. Okay, guys, with this I end the stream. This was the risk reward